TV for free. Now I get paid handsomely to do TV. But when I used to do TV for free, I was on the George Stephanopoulos show on Sunday. And it was in January, and he showed me a clip of a fellow by the name of Mike Pence, who at that time was the ranking Republican on the Budget Committee. He was a congressman. He's now the governor of Indiana. And Mike Pence was speaking at the CPAC convention. You all know what the CPAC convention is, the conservative convention. And Mike Pence was banging on the podium, and he said, yes, we're the party of no. We say no to taxes. We say no to borrowing. We say no to spending. We say no to tolling. And the clip ended, and Stephanopoulos turned to me and said, Governor, what do you think? I said, that's a prescription for disaster for the United States of America. We can't stop investing in our own growth. Well, Fox News never wanted to avoid controversy. They invited Congressman Pence and I on the next Sunday. And he went first, and he did the same riff. And then it came time for me to speak. And I turned to him. You're told never to look off camera. But for a fact, I looked off camera, and I turned to him and I said, Congressman, you seem like a reasonable guy to me. Well, the truth was, he didn't seem like a reasonable guy to me. But I've done enough television to know you want to be the nice guy, right? So I said, Congressman, you seem like a reasonable guy to me. Will you tell our viewers how we're going to keep our bridges and roads and dams and our infrastructure, how are we going to keep it safe if we don't invest in maintaining it? There was just about that length of silence, and on TV, that's eons of time. And Mike Pence, who is no dumb guy, he's a very smart guy, the best he could come up with, he said, there you Democrats go again, using the word invest when you really mean spend. That was his answer. No, Congressman, we mean invest. Invest in growth, invest in education, invest in energy. We mean invest, and there's no investment going on. What's the last time Rick Scott, Charlie Scott, was a basketball player. Charlie Scott was a basketball player from North Carolina. Anybody remember? When's the last time Rick Scott invested a dime in anything? In anything. All they do is say no. Government can't do anything right. All they say is no. Well, I don't like to brag about the things we did, but let me just tell you what I did in Pennsylvania on education. When I became governor, Pennsylvania was one of only 10 states that invested zero, not one dime, in early childhood education. We were in the bottom third on the national test, the NAEP test. Over the next 8 years, I raised the level of our investment by $4.2 billion annually. And we invested in a lot of things. We invested in pre-K, full-day kindergarten, smaller class sizes, after-school tutoring, technology in the classroom, teacher training. We invested real dollars in real programs that work. And in my last year as governor, Pennsylvania came in fourth among the states in the national test. And best of all, two things. Best of all, the Urban Education Institute, the Education Research Council in Washington, a think tank, said that Pennsylvania was the only state that improved in every test, in every subject matter tested, and every grade level tested in the national test. And best of all, our 8th graders. And remember, we started early childhood in my first year. This was 8 years later. Our 8th graders led the nation in reading. And when you think of all of the English as second language districts we have, some of our biggest districts, Allentown, Reading, Chester, Erie, all of these districts are ESL districts. When you think about that, it's extraordinary for our 8th graders to do it. Now, our governor, just like your governor, my successor was a Republican, cut over $1 billion out of education. And the test results are starting to show. And the test results are important because they're an indicator of what our workforce is going to look like down the road. And 15 years down the road, the currency for Florida, for Pennsylvania, is not going to be water, it's not going to be resources, it's not going to be geography, it's going to be the existence of knowledge workers at every level. And if we don't educate our kids well, we won't have a robust economy. If we don't invest in research and development, we won't be leading the world. Do you know, 2 years ago, for the first time ever, the United States Patent Office reported that more than 50% of the patents it granted, more than 50% of the patents it granted were to foreign nationals or foreign companies. 50% plus of the patents. We're not leading the world in anything. Math and science, 19th and 21st among the countries of the world. How about that? 19th and 21st. Energy, we have the ability, if we do it right, if we bring everybody together under one big tent and try to develop a cohesive energy policy, we have the ability to turn the American economy around. Instead of sending billions of dollars offshore to bring in energy, we can start exporting energy. And what that will do for our economy, what that will do for the strength of the dollar, what that will do for our job situation is enormous. And lastly, I want to talk about what Allison talked about, that's infrastructure. The American infrastructure is crumbling as we meet tonight. It is crumbling. You see evidence of it as bridges collapse. You see evidence of it as pipelines blow up. You see evidence of it as water mains burst. It's old, it's aging, it hasn't been maintained, and unless we do something about it, it's going to be a public safety hazard. It's going to make us far less competitive economically. Goods movement determines the countries that have a robust economy. Less than 12 years ago, the World Economic Report ranked us #1 in infrastructure. Today it ranks us 14th. Our ports rank 18th among the ports in the world. Our railroad system, 22nd. Our air traffic system, 32nd behind countries like Estonia and Iceland, because we've stopped investing. Almost every modern country in the world has the GPS system of air transport. We don't, because nobody wants to pay for it. We don't invest in anything. Look, the bottom line is there's good government spending and there's bad government spending. And we've got to discern among the two. We can't stop spending. We can't stop investing. Government matters. We believe that with all our hearts, or you would be sitting here tonight. Good government matters. It matters because it creates opportunities. It matters because it creates growth. And most of all, in the end, you're Democrats and I'm a Democrat. Because we understand that government has a solemn obligation to protect our most vulnerable citizens. You know, the Republicans claim, for the longest time, they claim to be the party of values, the party of morality, and they always quote the Bible and say that the Lord is against gay marriage, the Lord is against abortion, the Lord is this, the Lord is that. Well, Ted Strickland, the wonderful governor of Ohio, who unfortunately lost to a fellow who hasn't done a very good job, Ted Strickland had a term that he called us the Golden Rule Democrats. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. What's the Bible replete with? Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick. That's what you believe. That's why you became Democrats. That's why I became Democrats. And that's why it is so important for us to win. If we're going to get back on the road to greatness, if we're going to start investing money and not being scared about it, we're all scared to do anything anymore. One of the chapters in my book, I actually fought with my publisher over the name of my book. He was right. Nation of Wusses was a catchy title. But I got to name all my chapters. And one of my favorite chapters was a chapter I called Stand and Defend. There are some things worth losing for. And think about that. If you don't believe there's anything worth your losing for, then why did you run in the first place? If you don't have a core set of things you want to accomplish, then why did you run? Save us the trouble. Don't just run to be called congressman or a state representative or a state senator or a U.S. senator or whatever. Run because you want to do something and care enough about it to be willing to risk. And by the way, anybody here know who Russ Feingold is? Yeah. You know who Russ Feingold is? A fine, terrific guy. Russ Feingold was the only senator to vote against the Patriot Act. And he lost because of it in 2010. But Russ Feingold walked out of that building with his head up high. And now after all the revelations that have come out, Russ Feingold looks pretty smart, doesn't he? He's pretty smart. So, the message is, and this is a message we've got to get out to the people, because you're not going to beat Rick Scott just by pointing out how terrible he is. Because people want to know, okay, he's terrible, I agree, but what are you going to do? And say that we're going to be bold, we're going to be strong. Look, America was made by risk takers. Think about those patriots. They were the original risk takers, and they knew what the stakes were. Ben Franklin said, we must all hang together or we'll surely hang separately. They knew when they signed, John Hancock signed in such big letters on the Declaration, they asked him why. He said, so King George could hang me first. And think about our revolution. We were a nation of shopkeepers and farmers going up against the strongest army and the navy in the world. It was like Appalachian State versus Michigan. We had no business winning. We had no business winning. And remember, revolutionaries were the landed gentry. They were the elite of the country. Remember what the Declaration says. We pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Do you think anybody in the Russian Revolution had a fortune? Do you think anybody at the barricades of the French Revolution had a fortune? No! They pledged all of that. They risked their lives for freedom. And that's how this country was born, by the original risk takers. And all along our history, we have always been led by bold women and bold men who've had the guts to take risks, prudent risks to move America forward. So we've got to chart out an agenda here in Florida, in Pennsylvania, across the length and breadth of this country, an agenda of what we want to do, what we want to do to grow, what we want to do to protect our citizenry. If we do that, and we do it loud and clear and proud of our heritage, remember, for all the crap that they're giving the Affordable Health Care Act, remember, Social Security was supposed to be a communist plot. Medicare was socialism. If you could roll back the clock, you should see what the Republicans said about Social Security and Medicare. And now none of them have the guts to propose even the slightest changes, because it's so popular and Americans love it so much. So we've got to say that we don't have all the answers, but we know where to go. We know where to change, how to change Tallahassee, and how to make it a place that leads Florida to a better life. And it can't just be from our candidate, whether it's Nan or Charlie, it can't just be from them. All of you have to carry that message. Carry that message to your neighbors, carry that message to the people you represent. Be strong, work hard. And by the way, something that occurred to me as I think Allison say, they worked as hard as a dog. I have 2 golden retrievers at home. They're rescue golden retrievers. They don't do a second of work a day. They sleep 16 hours. They eat filet mignon. They're brushed, they're bathed. What's this business about working as hard as a dog? But having said that, get out there and bring the message home. Bring the message home. And don't bring it home just for us. Don't bring it home just because we want to see Democrats in Tallahassee and Democrats in Harrisburg and Democrats in Washington. Bring it home because the American people are depending on it.
For inviting me to share in this, and I picked 3 quotations from Leviticus 25, verse 10. Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. From Leviticus 19, when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. And from Genesis 1, let there be light. And this Shabbat is called Shabbat Bereshit, the Sabbath of creation. Our sages called light the light of consciousness. And friends, this year more than ever, may we rekindle the light of consciousness within our heart and soul, building and rebuilding a better state and a better nation. Amen.